that one of the main objectives for the session today is identify some priority countries, put names and visible commitments for leadership commitment and action, and create this shared visible understanding and commitment to this part of the management action plan, and have a few other discussions about the context in which this takes place. So the agenda, we have shared some reading material and a video. We'll very briefly go back on John Mitchell's presentation very, very briefly. And we'll start with a presentation from Astrid and Jaap on the NSDAG offer of support to create alignment on the process changes. Then we'll go right into the management action plan, review the revised scope and timelines of the map, the simplified version that was circulated. That's available also in the shared drive and the link that we sent you. And let's say the substantive discussion is on the point one, the mainstreaming of the WOW and the work in the hopefully 7 to 10 priority countries to implement more efficient business models. Moving right away, we don't want to re-have the presentation from John. You've seen the link. It was a 12-minute presentation that highlighted, let's say, four points. We just wanted 4 points for the context and the environment in which this conversation is taking place. We just want to remind a conversation or a point that John put out and that has come up over and over, is about the importance of acting with the courage and unity to overcome the institutional inertia. We have to change ourselves in how we work and how we see ourselves and how we're structured. And that implies some leadership courage, sometimes some painful redesigning of our own internal mechanisms. So that's an invitation. And his invitation to seize this pivotal moment to face this difficult transition and change in time that we're facing collectively. So I will now hand over to Astrid and Jaap from the NSDAG, and I will stop sharing because Astrid has a few slides. And Astrid, over to you to start, and then we'll follow with a very brief Q&A, and then another, well, not really a Q&A, actually. It's going to be a different take, but over to you, Astrid, and please get us started.
Thanks, JP. Thank you, colleagues, for having us, myself and Jaap. Just so I'm Astrid Nissen, the National Society Development and Partnerships Advisor with the International Department of the Swiss Red Cross, based here in Bern, and Jaap can present himself just in a minute. Let me share exactly my screen, as JP said, have a quick a couple of slides when this is going into presentation mode, hopefully. Okay. And just a quick confirmation, you can see this, right? Yes, okay. So just for those of you who still might not know, so what is this NSDAG? It's a little bit an unfortunate...
Astrid, sorry,
yes.
Rege speaking, just for you to know what we are seeing. We are seeing your internal presenter with the notes, etc. Just to be mindful of...
Thank you.
Yes, good, sorry. And then then you need to go to presentation mode.
That's what I did. It's just playing with me, technology. It's still the same, right? Okay, let me just... Okay, wait, just a second.
It's more if you don't want us to read all your...
I don't really mind, but so is this...
Here we go.
Okay, sorry for that.
That's it.
I mean, not much that you wouldn't be hearing anyway. So yeah, just for you to know who, for those of you who are not that familiar with this acronym, the DAG, so this is the National Society Development Advisors Group. We're an informal group of NSD, or one should maybe say rather NSD support practitioners from national societies, and this group of national societies very closely resembles that of the ICG. The NSDAG was formed already in 2013. We're currently around, a bit more than 20 practitioners. We have representation from 19 national societies. It's mainly those national societies engaged in international support to NSD efforts of other national societies. We also have representation from the ICRC and the IFRC. And some outputs that the NASDAQ, or a former group was called ODAC, Organizational Development Advisors Group, was involved in, and that you might have come across, the BOCA, so the Branch Organizational Capacity Assessment, the NSD Compact, which is still one of the principal guiding documents for all that concerns NSD support, or the Financial Sustainability Framework too. Also on all of these basic conceptual documents and frameworks, many of us have directly been involved in those, in the development of those. We would like to, so we are really grateful that you have given us the time to just reformulate maybe what we could say as an offer to you as ICG, as to the discussions that you are dealing with, and to the solutions that you are collectively looking at. So this does look, I guess, familiar to many of you. We thought this was a quite telling picture, and that depicts the current situation. And we agree very strongly as a group with the ambitions outlined in the ICG Statement of Commitments, and then those were translated into the map, and including, or most importantly, the need to change the business model, our business model, to more effectively support sister national societies, or the national societies in the movement. But so our connections into this network are very complicated because they are very diverse, as you can see here. And so it's not really easy to align those. And we have seen from ongoing and previous experiences, but we have seen that there needs to be an alignment on processes, and maybe at headquarter levels first, so that we change our plugs before we try to change the socket, or to uniform the socket. And we maybe want to come up with something that looks rather like that. So now this is a very simplified way, and don't mind so much the geographical indications that are given here. It's a picture that we guess you see also our message, and we think that this corresponds very well to what you're discussing. So the need to avoid developing all independently business models in isolation, and then equipping each of our respective partners with tools to deal with those, but to rather find the tools to do so as a network, and how that could work, and how we can do this better. And concretely, Jaap will take you to a couple of points that as a practitioner group we have come up with, and we would like to present to you as potential offers that could be helping in doing exactly what you were also stating as expectations from this meeting, in getting to concrete action. Over to you, Jaap.
Okay, thanks, Astrid. Then I'll start with introducing myself. My name is Jaap Timmer. I'm an old-timer within the Netherlands Red Cross. I'm actually a predecessor of Dirk Segaar. And I have I followed him, and followed my following work was with several positions within IFRC, but I'm now back in the Netherlands Red Cross on my retirement, but I still give support to the Netherlands Red Cross in the field of policies and partnerships, and I'm a bit of an institutional memory to avoid reinventing the wheel. So thanks for the opportunity, and you should know that with much interest we follow the ICG, and we know the ICG earlier commitments, and we had discussion with DAC on what changes are needed made or already discussed on our own business models to make the required transformation. And in these discussions, we came up with the 11 opportunities to review our business model for shared partnerships. These were shared with you as pre-reading and are visible here on the screen. There are 5 areas which we can start, and 6 areas which are more complicated and deserve this discussion with partners for implementation. But given our NSD role as NSS TAC members, we are very familiar with the complexities of these organizational changes. And the ultimate goal is more and better locally led humanitarian action by our national societies. But an important element of the transformation are the changing modus of operandi in our own headquarters and to review the delivery processes. Moreover, we notice also, as all of us are moving forward, we are not moving in the same way and always with the same focus. So it's questionable if we are aligning our new approaches sufficiently among ourselves, notwithstanding our agreed higher ambitions for localization. So our offer as NSDAC is firstly to find out what this transformation means at the process level in our own organizations. And secondly, to help facilitate this alignment. As NSDAC, we can identify and analyze differences and overlap, which will help the ICG to take effective decisions. We recently did do an exercise on the mapping of NSD support by our own organizations. And we looked at what we do, where we work, and how and which kind of technical support is available, and what and where are the gaps. So for as much as you have not had the opportunity to look at it, the link will be provided in the chat. Now, for addressing the alignment on the new business models among ourselves, we can do a comparable exercise. We can provide a picture of the changes made in our societies already, or changes under discussion, or developed for future action, and see where further alignment is useful in order to avoid mismatching, including avoiding the complications for recipient national societies to adjust to a new set of changes from PNS sides. So process in our societies to focus on the new way of working and locally led action already involves or will involve a broad range of staff at the operational level in our own societies. We think of finance, legal, compliance, human resources, programs, etc. We think that as NSD practitioners, we will be well placed to unravel the consequences of the transformations and to see the interconnectivities in our national societies, as well as the relationship with the field, and to know how to convene at process level groups and to ensure proper integration within the new way of working. Thereby, we will make use of a number of learnings. We should not forget the EIL, the PPP, and the new way of working pilot. Among NSDAC members, we already exchanged the experience of the changes made in our respective organizations, but we think it is useful to do it now in a systematic way. And of course, all of this is done and will be done with our relevant colleagues within our national society. And as an informal group, we can report this back to the ICG for the actions which you deem necessary. The next slide. On this slide, we formulated some questions around the later discussion as part of the transformation process, which we also discussed. But for us, our feedback to the last question is the most important. What we hope is that you see the importance and recognize that the alignment is an issue to focus on. And our offer is directly related to the management action plan, which we will discuss today, in particular in the 4th expected result, where NSDAC is specifically mentioned. So we hope to hear if this offer fits with the ICG intentions, and are happy to answer questions and listen to your suggestions. And with that, I thank you, thank you very much for the attention, and go back to GP and Connie here.
Thank you, yeah. So opening the floor to, it's less a Q&A, a traditional Q&A than maybe points for clarification, as just said. What would you need as ICG to accept and engage in this conversation with NSDAG and move forward on the proposed approaches and rise up to the invitation? So there's a few questions there. Let's make this a conversation.
Would it be possible to go back to the slide with the offer outline? Thanks.
And yeah, maybe as people are processing what you just said, yeah, you mentioned sharing a resource in would it be a shared document? Would it be a document that we'd send after the meeting?
What we can do is prepare terms of reference if you need one. Yes, we are in the process of preparing one, which makes very clear how we would work and what the resources would be needed. Because one of the things is that, say, we as NSDAC members should have some opportunity to work on it, and say the internal in our headquarters, there should be a willingness to participate and give it a form of priority, or at least importance, that it's not at the back of everybody's paper stack, but that we really can work on it quickly, so that in the next quarter something can be presented.
Okay.
And the other document that we can, I'm sharing it in the chat now, that was mentioned by Jaap just as an example, is this mapping around the NSD support, so the overlap between the thematic competencies of the different one of us and geographies and potential for it. I share.
Okay. So the document is now in the chat for you to download. So we'll have 3 questions, Kelsey, Lena, and Tina. Kelsey, please go ahead, and Richard.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Jaap and Astrid, for the presentation. I just wanted to make a comment more so, and perhaps we can discuss this further when we're talking about sort of more tangible things like the management action plan, et cetera. One of the things that the core group was talking about is sort of the lost opportunity of synergy between these different working groups. You know, we're all working on sort of the same files in different levels. And so what I would really like to see with NSDAG is alignment of what we're working on, so that sort of we can fuel each other as groups and not be working in parallel or in a disconnected kind of way. And I think there's less of sort of coming up with a terms of reference, maybe that's useful, or like coming up with a list of things to do, rather it should be finding a way to communicate between our two groups. You know, what are we talking about and concerned about in ICG, and what are you working on, and how can we connect these two things better? So how do we find this sort of regular point of interaction together to make sure that we are, as two global groups representing national societies that are working in support of other national societies, how we can make sure that we're working in synergy together? So maybe a terms of reference is useful, but maybe not. Maybe it's more of a sort of a fixed interaction point between, you know, certain leads of NSDAG and certain leads of ICG. Maybe that's the best way to go ahead. And when we're talking about, and I also like, I think what we work on together will evolve, because I find our discussions as ICG, although we kind of have these high level discussions or thematics that carry through the year, there are different pieces we want to work on in a more in-depth way at different points in the year, depending what's happening in a certain given context. So I think of fluidity between the relationship and sort of the offer of NSDAG and ICG is really important as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Lena?
Yes, hi, Lena from the Swedish Red Cross. So thank you, super interesting to hear. and I think it makes a lot of sense with the synergies. And from the Swedish Red Cross, I mean, we're currently in the process of developing a localization framework, or whatever you want to call it, and of course looking at work that's already been done by others. But I think for us this would be very timely and really something that we would encourage. So I think it makes a lot of sense that we don't sit on our own looking at this. So if there's some synergies to be made and looking jointly, I mean, there's some changes that we can't make on our own, and especially at country level. So I think for the first offer there, I think from our point of view, this makes a lot of sense. I think it can also be, I think we're all here, you know, we all agree on the principles, and the next step now is really how do we, it's difficult, but how do we make it work on a country level? And there's a lot of, I'm sure it's the same for you, there's a lot of discussions on how we can optimize the way that we work, the way that we're resourced, etc., in different ways. So I think it would now is an optimal time to look at this jointly. So I mean, if we can gain momentum doing this jointly, and I think also somebody who can help us. I mean, we all have good intent, but how do we make it happen? So if this can help us really go from words to action, I think this is really something, an interesting offer. And I think for your list of actions, I mean, they all make sense from the way that we want to work. And I think also in parallel, I hear there's quite a lot of talk among the Nordic national societies and others about how we can share resources thematically, etc. So I think this also aligns with the thinking overall. Thank you.
Thank you, Lena. Tina?
Thank you. I'm Tina from Finnish Red Cross. Thanks a lot. And I've been following up on this through our participation on the NSD advisory group, and I think this makes a lot of sense. A lot of the same things that Lena was saying. What I'm hearing from you now as an offer is to really help us to move this concretely forward. And this is something I'm really supportive of, and this is something we have been discussing in the ICG core as well. How can we make this now concrete? How can we start moving this concretely forward? And happy to hear that this would be one option to explore. One of the questions that you had, is it best place to start at the country level, or I can't remember how it was framed, but or should we start at the HQ level? And I think we need both. And this is something that I feel that it's, when we talk in the HQ level, and I'm using as my national society as an example, we are in a process as well to develop our localization agenda and moving forward how we can be a better partner with these lenses on our eyes. But unless we start to put it in practice as well, because each context is different, and the key element is the national society themselves, where we are working and who we are supporting. And very often that might be the hindering factor as well. So in a way, it is so important that we, at the same time, in my mind, that we engage in those certain countries that we would agree on. And this is something we have put forward in the management action plan to look at certain context. But at the same time, I think we need to look at our HQ level as well. So I wouldn't say either, or I think it's both. And I would really encourage us to keep both on the agenda, so we have these pilots, or whatever we want to call them anymore. I think everybody's tired of pilots now, but whatever it is, to really trial as we go when we are moving forward. Thank you. But really supportive.
Thanks, Tina. And Richard, to close this segment.
Yeah, just, I mean, to add to my support, I mean, what I would say is all of those 11 points we at the British Red Cross would fully support. We also would want to fund whatever activity with others, I'm sure, chipping in to make sure actually the work gets done. The problem of writing these lists is somebody's got to then go and do the work of actually working out how core costs is being changed across the different PNSs and share those models and best practices. And we've got to do it, not talk about it. So what does it take to deliver this plan of 11 points? How much money, so that we can then chip in to get it delivered? I see it largely, this plan, delivered at the global level. I was, through our respective headquarters. But I'm with Tina. I'm interested in that, because unless we create the conditions for success, all the country stuff is just noise. We will not transform anything. So definitely let's work with you to deal with this headquarters 11 points and handle it in the headquarters. And then there's another action plan, which is in the map, which is delivering in 10 countries serious change of culture, ways of working, operating models. And we in the British Red Cross want to fund and support both. Both have to happen, but they also have to be quite clear that they are also distinct pieces of work, but they are absolutely complementary. Otherwise, we're not going anywhere.
Thanks, Richard. Mika?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Astrid and Jaap, for this presentation. And maybe I'm a little bit more cautious in terms of the way I would like to commit to your offer right now, Jaap and Astrid. I think it's really good work, but I think as an ICG, we haven't actually really discussed it as a collective, the map as such, and how we come together. So from my perspective, and not to be the sort of the whatever the one that kills everything, but I think for me it's a little bit premature actually to assess what you should run with under the sort of comprehensive and collected decisions related to how we want to change and transform. So I'm sorry, but I think I need to discuss a little bit more with the full ICG group whether the very specific and very action-oriented offer, and thank you very much for that, is the one we are aiming for now, or whether we need also to include other colleagues than the colleagues in the NSD advisory group. So can't we come back to you with a little bit more concrete sort of, and have a possibility to reflect on it as a collective, and then get back to you would be my suggestion, and maybe also to my ICG colleagues. Some of you have maybe not seen this before, and so on. So that's would be my feedback on this. But thanks for bringing us all together. Thank you very much for that.
Thanks, Rika. Before I turn to you, Anne, I just want to, for a last question, I just want to give maybe a space for Astrid and or Jaap to tackle what's come their way so far. Over to you, either of you, if you want to respond.
So I mean, first of all, thank you for those for the feedback. I mean, we heard you, Rika, and I think that's a question for you internally in ICG to come to terms with, if you're ready or not, or if, whilst maybe there are some ongoing discussions, there are a couple of very concrete that you already have found common ground on, because some of the points keep coming back, right? As NASDAQ, we have been in one of your meetings in December 23. And there are recurrent topics. So I think you are kind of settling on those, or have settled, and maybe the more intensified or made more concrete collaboration with the NASDAQ could then bring the concrete points. I hear also as well, I think we hear Richard on, and this, Jaap, I think we can take back to then make it very concrete to basically budget and cost on certain products, so that this is then up for support, and we would take it as a general interest on those pieces of work. Still considering, Rika, what you were saying, but we could move on and make a proposition on how, with collaboration from and certain time contingents from different one of us as parts of NASDAQ could work on something, and what would be timeframes, and how to bring it back with you to you. I also hear and find very interesting the feedback on finding ways of more recurrent forms of hearing each other and being aware of maybe discussions and outcomes of discussions. This is happening right now in a, let's say, rather loose and ad hoc way. And thanks to Richard, for you, and Debbie, our colleague in the NASDAQ, very much using you as a proxy to help us in understanding what's going on, and some of us respectively with our head of internationals. But I think that would be something as well where we would be interested in seeing, maybe a fixed agenda point, 20 minutes check-in in your meetings, that could certainly be set up.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Astrid.
Yeah, maybe be very short. As an additional, I think what I hear and what I support is to be complementary. I mean, there's two different processes, as Richard mentions also, but they're very much aligned. And I think one of the experiences of the EIL, for instance, is that, say, we focused in Nepal too much on the country, too little on the changes required in our national societies. Just to give you a few examples, which is, say, the assessments. Every PNS does an assessment and risk assessment and financial assessment in the national societies. And this is a burden for the national societies. And we have to align that, say, together. It's not, say, in one country. It is, say, an alignment with our own societies. If we want to work towards, say, unearmarked funding. And nothing is completely unearmarked. Unearmarked funding will be like the pocket money which gives to our children and say, okay, take the money and you see what it is. We always will have a responsibility to show to our donors how the money is used. The National Society can spend it on its own way and decide its own way, but there should be a reporting mechanism, and this should be aligned. It's not different for any of us, which is very often the question in the project proposal. Now, I have many examples of this, but this is where we would like to see this alignment. Say, on the field, say the national societies to change, but at the same time, say, in the field, as is mentioned. Back to you, GP.
Thank you. Anne, please.
Hi, hello, colleagues. Well, just two remarks and a bit in line with what Ulrike said. So what I see really, and thank you very much for that document. I will need to read it also, of course, more in details, but I see two axes. This is one where we say we would like to reduce the administrative burden that we are creating between ourselves, by the way, and also with the host national societies. And I really think in that avenue, we can quickly move forward because we will all win, and that's easy. There is no strategic or difficult decision to make. It's just going together to have a simple life and to join our forces, and then really maybe we could even detail a bit more that axis in the proposal. The second one is about having as much as possible flexible funding for the host national societies in order to help them to develop themselves. That, of course, for me, what will be key is the time frame we would like to impose to ourselves, because I think all of us would like to go in that direction. Why I'll be maybe, and it's maybe also what Rico mentioned, is that there, for me, I need to be a bit more cautious because I need to make sure that I can do it. We maybe need to do more advocacy together for that flexible funding or push in that direction. So it takes more time. It's in my agenda. I want to do it. I'm not very comfortable about the fact that they define a core cost and we all have to apply, because it's a bit, it can be a big constraint. I mean, as a commitment, and I'm not sure I can take it, really not right now. But I think there we have to see what will be our ambition in terms of time frame. And then how can we keep it also as simple as possible? And maybe because we all have different reality, different donors, how can we go to that objective without with some flexibility also inside? So that will be my 2 points. Thank you for that.
Okay, I see more and more comments. We have a decision to make on this plenary information sharing or the core of the discussion and decision point. So Richard, Bonnie, you put your hand up. I invite you to frame your presentation in that context, that we're a little bit tight on time for the main block, but go ahead, Richard.
Yeah, so Kelsey was before me.
I think Kelsey already spoke.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm a bit with Anne and Peter, you know, I think we should just have a